Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, influencers of all ages, it is that time. It is episode 100 of A Drink with James. Welcome. I am your host and king, James Nord. If I can be totally honest real quick, the crown was not my idea. It was my lovely assistant, Curran's idea, which I think is maybe her way of trolling me. I think she's trying to say something about our working relationship that she feels like I should wear a crown. And I don't think it is that she sees me as royalty. I think she's probably trying to say that you see yourself as the king and you're not. So I'm gonna remove the crown real quick. There you go. Okay, so listen y'all, we're at episode 100. Did I think we would get to 100? I don't think the thought didn't cross my mind when we started, but it is pretty amazing. We've been doing this for 2 years now, nearly every week. I guess we've missed 2 weeks a year we take off.
Yeah, I think about 2 weeks.
Yeah, so we take about 2 weeks a year off from doing the show, but one episode a week, essentially every week for 2 years. And you know, I will say this, on this show a lot, we talk about product market fit, right? And the reason we kept doing the show is, you know, Tim had this idea, we pulled it together really quickly, we shot one, we sent an email out to our clients and influencers, and instantly got like 10 or 15 emails, people being like, this was great, I really like this. And the next, you know, the first few ones we put out there, they weren't getting a lot of views. I mean, how many were our early videos getting?
A couple hundred.
Couple hundred views?
Like in like a month.
Yeah. Yeah, so like, you know, we'd put a video up, it'd be up for a month, it would have 220 views or something. So it wasn't getting a lot of views, but people were reaching out, they were saying they liked it, they were saying they wanted to see more. When I talk about product market fit, that's kind of what I'm talking about. We instantly knew at least we were doing something that people were marginally interested in and they wanted to see more of. You know, we've been, again, doing it consistently for the last 2 years, and we really haven't changed it that much. I mean, maybe we've gotten a little bit better microphone, we've shot in some cool places, but essentially we do exactly the same thing as when we started. You know, I don't think of these answers beforehand. I come and sit in this room, I look at a board, Tim has 3 questions written up on the board, I spend maybe 1 to 3 minutes looking at them and thinking about them, and then we go and we do it in one take, and then that's it. I think the lesson here is not that I am an eloquent and, you know, informative speaker or that I'm a genius. That is not the lesson, while it may be true. The lesson here is like something was working initially and we really have not messed with the formula at all. I do think that like I have personally become a lot more knowledgeable about the space, in part running the business, but in part because of the show and thinking about things more. So I think that certainly has changed, but we haven't tried to script it. We haven't tried to, you know, change the format that much. Like, you find something that works and then you keep doing it over and over and over and over, and you get better at it and you get better at it, but you don't have to change it that much. That has been a big takeaway for me. I would have thought if we were at episode 100, it would be a vastly different set. It would be much more involved, but I think it is the kind of low production, easy, like non-scripted, I don't think about this stuff beforehand, I'm just shooting off the cuff, being real with you. I think it is that thing that worked. And so I think for your own feeds, you need to think about, you know, what are the things that are working and how can you certainly elevate those things and make them better and get better yourself without removing everything that makes you interesting. I think a lot of influencers start to get successful, they start to do brand deals, they start to get money, and they talk about totally different brands than they used to. They live a totally different life, and they lose a connection with their audience because they lose, honestly, a connection with reality. And when you lose that connection with reality, it's not a lot of fun to follow your life. You know, if I'm thinking about it in any way, if this show has worked, why it has, and lessons that I can impart, another is like going deep on a subject rather than wide. We could have covered a lot of different things. You know, we really almost exclusively talk about Instagram here and working on Instagram and working with brands. You know, there are a lot of different topics that we could cover in the show, but I think we have really tried to just focus in on one thing and go really, really hard on it and like get as in depth as possible. And in my own, you know, in building my knowledge and you know, well, I guess what little knowledge I have also really tried to focus. And again, not try and just say like, I want to learn about everything and bring that to the show, but like, what can I do really well? And what can I focus on and be known for? So, you know, I think again, in your own feeds, thinking about that, having a niche and really going after that and being open about it and learning a lot and becoming an expert. You know, we talk about influence, and the base of the word influencer is the word influence, and you need to be able to influence people. And to be able to influence another person, generally, you need to either know more than them about something or be perceived to know more than them about something. And so there is a craft side of this that is so often forgotten, that if I am going to listen to you about beauty, our set is falling down. If I'm going to listen to you about beauty, then you better be like, you better have something to teach me about beauty. If I am following you because you're a style influencer, then you better be, you better have great style, and you better be, you know, pushing that style forward kind of all the time. And so, you know, a lot of influencers, if you go to conferences and stuff, they talk about this being a job. This is a full-time job. It's so busy. I'm a full-time job. I'm a model. I'm a photographer. I'm a stylist. I'm a publicist. I'm a marketing person. I'm a CEO. All of that is true. I think what is not talked about enough is not the job and business of being an influencer. That is one thing. But how about building up the skills and the taste level and the knowledge to have the ability to influence people? That is a whole nother thing that isn't talked about that much. Like, yes, you could spend your time learning how to do your taxes and be an accountant. You could spend a lot of time learning to negotiate with brands. Like, all of those things are important. You could also spend time learning more about emerging brands that are coming out of, you know, France or Italy. You could learn about beauty trends coming out of Japan and Korea. There is a craft side of this business that we can't leave behind in lieu of the money side of the business. And you need to constantly be pushing what you know and being able to share that knowledge with your audience, or else why tune in? Listen, a lot of y'all watch this show every week. A lot of y'all have emailed me and say it's helpful, and that really has been one of the great joys of doing this, and certainly one of the joys of running this business. This has been really fun for me. If I wasn't constantly gathering information and trying to learn things so I could tell y'all something new the next week, you wouldn't watch the fucking show. And so week over week on your own feeds, are you giving your audience something new and different? Are you pushing, you know, to find new brands, or to discover new things, or to try a new style, or to go to a new place so that you can show your audience something special? Or are you just going about your daily life trying to cash in on it and make as much money as you can? I didn't mean for that to start out as a rant, but it started out as a small one. I'll close with some gratitude and say again, thank you to everybody who has watched. You know, we don't make any money off this. We don't really have to do this. It's not like I'm getting famous doing Drink with James. I do have a job, believe it or not, and it's not drinking in the afternoon and answering questions. But I do appreciate everyone that watched. We've got, you know, 40,000 minutes a week or something of people watching this, you know, this show and all of the episodes. And if I've helped you in any way, I appreciate that. And I appreciate all of you who have reached out, who have called me out on my bullshit when they disagreed, who have, you know, emailed me about trends that they're seeing or questions that they have. A lot of the stuff that I talk about on the show, I'm pulling from other people, so I appreciate all of you who have watched and commented, and all of you who have taught me something. Thank you very much, and cheers to the 100th episode. advice. What advice do you have for a young entrepreneur? That question comes from my mother. Hello, Mom. She just texted me this morning. She hit 1,000 followers. So I hit number 100 on Drink with James. At Sharon Nord just hit 1,000 followers. So cheers to you. Cheers to me. I'll take a drink. What advice do I have for young entrepreneurs? In a lot of ways, for a young entrepreneur, and this could be someone starting a business, or you have your Instagram account, you're going to turn your blog into a business. Like the kind of rules are the same. I think my big lesson over the last 5.5, almost 6 years now of running this business, and something I think I didn't really anticipate, was how difficult it is. We sit in this beautiful office in Soho right now. I've got over 20 people working for us. We're working with hundreds of brands. It's super busy, it's fun, people know about us, we get to do cool shit, we get to travel, we get to do all of this stuff. But we spent 3 years teetering on the edge of collapse. We spent 18 months of the business with a bank account under $10,000. I probably 10 times had to transfer money from my savings or checking account into the business's account to be able to cover an employee's paycheck. And then when another check from a brand would come in, I would pay myself back. That happened for, years. And even today, with the business doing well and it being pretty stable and growing, and having, ton of smart people here every day working on it, the crushing amount of doubt, self-doubt especially, just like never goes away. It's relentless. It's relentless, not in a way of like, oh my gosh, I'm so busy. It's relentless in that like you can never stop thinking about it. And if something goes wrong in your normal job, maybe you get chastised. Let's say the business doesn't do well. Okay, maybe you end up losing your job, but then you just go get another job. If this doesn't go well, I have investors whose money they've given me. I have, over 20 people who depend on paychecks to be able to pay their rent and, put food on the table for themselves and their families. And there's also you just care so much that for me, the thought of this not working out makes me physically sick. And I wasn't totally prepared to care like that much about something. I've always been a pretty confident kid, and I could just be like, oh, it'll work out, fuck it, like who cares, let's just do this, let's just do that. But if I really think about the reality of if this doesn't work out, it's not something you can just shrug off. I think that is something I wasn't really prepared for, and I think that if you would have asked me 5.5 years ago, hey, you've got 25 people working for you, you're in Soho, you're doing this, how do you feel? I'd be like, oh, like everything's great, I'm fucking loving life. And I am, like I love my job so much, but the self-doubt is probably more crippling than it was when I first started the business. And I've talked to entrepreneurs and they say that just like never goes away. You just always assume that you're a piece of shit and you're doing everything wrong. And then just the like constant worrying. So that's a kind of depressing outlook, but I think not enough people talk about it, and everyone talks about running a business and how great it is and freedom and this and travel and you're your own boss, but the actual reality of it is that I think to achieve something great, you have to struggle, and I think that is true of most things in life, and this is a monumental struggle to make a business work. And if you can't give in to that struggle and learn to love it as part of the job, I don't think you could survive. I think you would just say, this isn't worth it, I'm going to get out. Question number 2, is a blog really necessary? I don't read blogs when I shop. Why not just vlog it, go straight to shop from Instagram? Look, this is a question that has come up a few times. Is a blog necessary? I do not think in any way that a blog is necessary. I think in large part blogs are an anachronism. I think that they will go away in the next 5 years. I just don't think that web-based browsing is going to be a thing that we're doing much of in a few years. So I don't really think that having a blog today is necessary. I know when our clients are looking to do sponsored posts and work with influencers, they almost never ask for blog posts anymore. Now, I do also think that there is value in having a blog. I think that there's value in owning a space that is yours, that a platform can't change the rules on. They can't rip the carpet out from under you. They can't, not serve your content to people because they want to run advertising against it. It is a space that you own completely and that you can do whatever you want with. And building an audience that types in your URL every day and goes to it is super valuable. And if Instagram collapses, as Tumblr did, and MySpace did, and LiveJournal did, and as Instagram one day will, when that happens, if you have a big blog following, you are going to be in a better position. But blogs aren't completely safe. People always talk about building your own space, owning the platform, but the internet is a platform on which blogs are built. And again, I don't really believe in the URL-driven internet as a thing of the future. So I think it's you're subject to changes in people's behavior like you are anywhere. I will say that if you are someone who only has an Instagram account and that is all you have, I think you are doing yourself a massive, massive, massive disservice. Putting everything into that basket is foolish at best and just idiotic, more likely. The platform will change, interest will fade on it, it will become more crowded, it will get harder to be effective there. If Instagram or YouTube or whatever the platform is your only platform, you need to very, very quickly try and build a following somewhere else, because you cannot just have a revenue stream coming in from one source. It would be like Fohr just having one single client and being like, well, they're a great client, they're huge, so we are going to just roll with that. I heard from someone the other day that ran a business, and she said that she wouldn't let any one client be more than 30% of their revenue, because it would put the business in a difficult position. It would also give that client too much power over them. So maybe think about that. How can you diversify your revenue streams? How can you make sure that you're making money from more than just one single thing, which is sponsored posts on Instagram maybe? So that could be a number of things. You could have sponsored posts on Instagram. You could have, a little bit of money on the YouTube that you're building. You could have affiliate revenue that's coming in. You could have speaking and appearance fees. You could, create a product line. You want to try and diversify where you're getting your money from, so that if any one of those things goes away, you're not left with nothing. Question number 3. What advice do you have for those who feel they need to quit their jobs to blog? If you think you need to quit your job to blog full-time, the advice that I would give you is that you need to gain some perspective on the world. Can you get to a point in your career where you are so busy and you're making so much money on being an influencer and being a blogger that you quit your job 100%? Should that be a goal of yours? Potentially, yeah. If this is something you want to do, that should definitely be a goal. Is quitting your job going to make you successful enough where you don't need to have a job, I seriously doubt it. I think once you feel like you're so busy that you can't possibly, that you're turning down, so you're so busy that you're turning down deals because they're conflicting with work constantly. I worked as a photographer for years. I was never killing it. I probably made, 40, 50 grand a year on photography. I also had a full-time job. You just make it work. I never got busy enough as a photographer to say that I'm just gonna do this. I'm gonna quit my full-time job and just be a photographer. Could I have made more money if I quit my job? Yeah, I could have made marginally more money, but I wasn't in demand enough to where the job was no longer possible to have and I had to make a decision. I think that for most influencers, you want to get to that point where you are actively turning down deals consistently turning down deals, not like once or twice, but you're consistently having to turn things down because you can't do them with your job. And I'm not saying you're turning down press trips. Unpaid press trips are not a reason to quit your job. They're not a reason to start an Instagram. You want to have to be turning down paid gigs consistently. Look, I know it is frustrating to build a following. I know it's frustrating to try and make more money and try and make this a career. And yes, you should be focusing a lot of time on this, but if you work, in general, I'll say this, if you get home at 6 o'clock from a job, you can still go shoot. You can do all these things. You can go to events. You can edit. You can shoot video. You can do things. You don't need to have 10 hours a day to do this. You can put 25 to 30 hours a week into being an influencer and have a full-time job. Are you going to have a shitty couple of years? Absolutely. It's definitely going to be difficult. Is it fun to shoot 8 looks on a Saturday when all your friends are at brunch? Probably not. But do you want to, in a couple of years, have a lifestyle where you're doing whatever the fuck you want and flying around the world and making money and talking, working with brands that you love and building a community around you? Sure. Then what did I just say about running a business? All of it is sacrifice. It is just constant, relentless sacrifice until it's not. And so if you're not willing to put the work in and sacrifice, then you're probably not going to get the benefit. I don't think this question came from somebody that was just oh, fuck it, I don't want to work. Should I just quit my job? I do think the question came from a place of frustration where you think, if I didn't have a full-time job and had more time to put into blogging, then I would be more successful. And I don't think that is necessarily true. Maybe you're 10% more successful, maybe you're even 20% more successful. That's not enough to justify cutting off your revenue stream. So be patient, be patient, keep hustling, keep working at it. It'll make it all the sweeter when you finally do quit your job. You'll be leaving from a position of power and saying, I am leaving this career because this other career is taking off so much more, and I would be foolish to not pursue this opportunity that is, incredibly exciting and potentially incredibly lucrative. Less advantageous to say, I'm quitting my job to be able to work a little bit harder to hopefully be able to gain more of a following, to then hopefully be able to turn that into a business that will hopefully be very lucrative and very fulfilling for me. So that's my advice. Take it or leave it. But you can do a lot with a side hustle. More than you think if you just put your mind to it. So that's it. That's episode 100. Thank you for watching. We have to return this jacket. We bought it, but we're returning it. It's not mine. So I'm going to just hold my arms like this and say goodbye, thank you, and cheers.